The next topic we're going to be looking at is forces. So what is a force? A force is any push or pull that one body exerts on another. So if we take a look at this example, when someone kicks a football, what forces are being exerted on the football? Pause the video for a second, think about it, think to yourself what forces are acting on that football, and then push play when you're ready. We have the force of the kick, so the foot is acting on the football, so we have that force. We also have the force of gravity acting on it. We always have gravity acting on every single thing at all times here on Earth. Okay, so when we think about forces, we can have balanced forces. This is when the forces acting on an object are opposite in direction and equal in size. So if you have a table sitting on a book, the force of the book is equal to the force of the table, and the book sits there at rest and does not move. Okay, so you have no change. It does not move. The book simply sits and rests. Okay, so you have the table pressing up on the book, you have the gravity pressing down, and those two forces are equal. The book sits at rest. But you can also have a net force. This is when the forces acting on an object are unbalanced. That may mean that they are not opposite, or it may mean that they are not equal. So you may have opposite forces acting on each other, but if one is stronger than the other, they're not equal, then we are going to see a change. There is going to be a change in velocity. The object will accelerate, or the object will move. So for example, let's take a look at this image here. We have a man pulling on a rope attached to an object sitting on a cart with wheels. Okay, so we have the force of the pull, so the man pulling on the object is one force. You have the force of friction, so those wheels in contact with the ground is creating friction. That is an opposite force from the pull, but as we can see here in the image, the force of the pull is stronger than the force of the friction. They are not equal, so there is a net force. We also have, of course, gravity acting, because gravity acts on all objects. That is a downward force. Okay. And you have that opposite force pushing upwards from the ground. And so our net force is going to go towards that pull. So the force of the up and down is equal, and we see here it's acting on these wheels. Okay, so that's why there's two of them. But these forces are equal, so these are balanced, so there's no net movement up or down. They are balanced. But the pull is greater than the friction, so it will move towards the man pulling it. So just remind ourselves, Newton's first law of motion, okay? And there's a couple of ideas that go in with that first law of motion. We have the law of inertia. Okay, so what is inertia? Inertia is the tendency of an object to resist any change in its motion. So objects that have a lot of inertia, it's very difficult to get them to change their motion. It's difficult to get them to start moving. It's difficult to get them to stop moving. Things that have low inertia, it's very easy to move them. Your inertia increases as mass increases. Okay, so heavier objects are harder to start moving than light objects. Okay, so inertia and mass go hand in hand. Okay, so think about this baseball player and this truck. Out of the two of them, which has greater inertia? Hopefully you said the truck, because the truck has much greater mass. So it's much more difficult to get that truck to start moving or to get it to stop, right? It takes time because it's difficult. The baseball player, lot smaller mass, a lot easier to get that person moving or to get them to stop moving. So what about friction? What is friction? I mentioned that in one of my examples. Let's talk about it. So friction is the force that opposes motion between two surfaces. Okay, it opposes motion. Friction depends on the type of surfaces that are interacting with each other and the force between the forces, or between the surfaces, sorry. So if you think about wearing rubber shoes on concrete, there's a lot of friction between rubber shoes and concrete. So when you try to slide your foot, it doesn't slide easily. It's very difficult to get it to slide across that surface. However, if you think about a rubber shoe on ice, there is not a lot of friction there. Your foot will slide right on across the ice, right? So less friction, easier movement between the two items, more friction, more difficult. And we can use this to our advantage as well. Okay, so when is friction greater? It's greater between rough surfaces and when there's a greater force between the surfaces. So more weight pressing down will give you more friction. Okay, and so think about some ways that we use this idea to our advantage. If you've ever worked in a restaurant of any kind, fast food or full service, you know you need special shoes because floors are greasy. You need special shoes to increase friction. We use that to our advantage. Okay, think about ice skating or playing hockey. Okay, we take advantage of the fact that ice has very low friction. And then we have special skates that we use to skate on the ice that have very small surface area. They're very smooth metal to create even faster speeds, even less friction. Okay, so see if you can think of some more examples like this.